This is a rich friendship.
This is great. No, that's like, wow.
No, I just
this is why I paid for the yearly membership with you, Victoria. I don't do that month to month shit with you like I do with my other friends. I bundled for a year. I saved some bones, and it's already paid for itself with that cup and saucer bit.
God, I would love to monetize myself.
Yeah, you want to make this like a super follow?
I think I do. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm trying to figure out how. Let it get up here. Let it down here.
Hey, if you were a super follow, if you were to be super followed, I would super follow you.
I like the idea of just being an app or like a vague program of some sort.
Yeah.
Victoria.
Like what your app would be?
I'm trying to imagine how they would spell my name differently, the way like all apps do.
I feel like Victoria with like 2 eyes at the end.
Yeah, and there's like, and they have the audacity to draw like a little smile under it.
Yeah,
to give it that human touch.
Yeah.
That tech is always desperately reaching for because no one there is human.
And like the V and the A would actually look the same. Like there wouldn't be a line through the A at the end of Victoria.
Yeah.
So the V and the A, maybe they do it where it'd be, maybe they try to design it so you could have it, you could flip it. It could be any direction. You could like upside down. It would still read Victoria. I don't know how they would pull that off though.
Hey, Chelsea.
Yeah, Victoria.
You know what I need?
What?
A breath of fresh movie.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
Cool.
That's a movie I like to see.
This is a breath of fresh movie.
Yes.
Yeah.
You are listening to A Breath of Fresh Movie,
a podcast where we watch a movie that neither of us has ever seen, and we talk about it. And I'm one of your hosts, Victoria,
and I'm Chelsea, the other host.
And I just waved at Chelsea as if like other people could see me waving at you, audience. I was waving at the audience in my mind. The director of this film today, in the way that like she's constantly exploring facets of identity. She dresses herself up like in her artwork to assume these kinds of roles and these characters. And it's really cool. What's not cool though is her one and only foray into feature filmmaking. Office Killer.
Yes, Office Killer
from 1997.
Yeah. It's not cool. I like how we just lay out this movie is not cool.
It's well, to some people it probably is.
Yeah, I feel like it's like
to diehard Cindy Sherman fans, it's a piece of art. Mm-hmm. I don't know if it's a work of art.
I think, I definitely came in with a different expectation than what I got. And I think in the same vein as like my feelings about Jim Jarmusch movies, people who appreciate or like these, I think there is some overlap in some of the style in both of those, in this film and in his films plural.
Yeah.
Like that are like there's a little bit of a pedantic quality that happens here and there. There's a little bit of like hovering in the aesthetics for like just a hair past my appreciation of it. Mm-hmm. I think I
hear what you're saying. Totally.
Yeah, but that's not to say, it's also simultaneously, it's like I did find some really choice moments in this movie too.
Yeah. So Office Killer, directed by Cindy Sherman, written by Elise McAdam and Tom Kalin. They wrote the screenplay, but this story was kind of conceived by Elise McAdam and Cindy Sherman. The dialogue was worked on by Todd Haynes. I don't know how much that helped, but
what else is
Todd Haynes? He did.
Oh, okay. So it's listing a whole bunch of Carol, The Velvet Underground, Far From Heaven, Dark Waters, I'm Not There, Velvet Goldmine, Safe, Wonderstruck, Poison. Like he's definitely someone who, in terms of moody movies, vibey movies, aesthetic movies, there's these, he's got a
I think it's interesting though, there's a lot of talent
focus
on this film.
Yes.
Even though we're letting we weren't fans necessarily, but some of the other people involved, Evan Lurie did the music. He's one of the founding members of the Lounge Lizards, and also John Lurie's brother, who I've brought up before on this podcast. He was Snakeface in Paris, Texas.
Oh, snap.
You remember that guy?
Yeah. I remember you telling me this.
Yeah, and how he's like a cool dude. And
yes.
Did the theme song for Late Night with Conan O'Brien back when he was on, NBC. And He's done a lot of cool stuff. Painting with John. Anyway, his brother did the music for this.
Gotcha.
Our cast is Carol Kane as Doreen, Molly Ringwald as Kim, Alice Drummond plays Carol Kane's mother. Eric Bogosian is not credited, but he plays the pedophile father.
Interesting.
Yeah. Jeannie Triplehorn as Nora and Barbara Sokoa as Virginia Wingate, who is based essentially on Ariana Huffington, apparently. That woman who's like smoking and as soon as I said it, you're like, wow.
Yeah, she's 100% the same character as the redhead in Gremlins 2.
Or like one of the absolutely fabulous people. Like very
that energy.
Ugh. Like, damn, there's some lipstick energy in this.
Big lips. It's the power suit and the cigarette and the
big rings,
the glibness, you know. And she had right away. I just want to say I really liked she had a very old timey, like her lines felt very old time. She even said that like you're long in the tooth line.
I like that expression, and I've heard people misuse it so much. Like people have they think it means like something went on too long, and it kind of does in a way.
Long in the tooth is like you're lying, old. Right?
No, it's like you're old.
See, I didn't know what it meant. Okay, that makes so much more sense. She.
Yeah, it could be a she. I think what's unfortunate is that I watched the trailer for this morning, and they're positioning it as a comedy.
Yeah, see, like that
is wrong, right?
I don't think I thought any of it was funny except the absurdity of the boss character to everybody else initially. That got a laugh out of me, and I was like, is this gonna be like, how high camp is this gonna be? And it kind of like it doesn't take you all the way there.
Yeah,
you know?
I don't remember laughing.
I don't think it was. I didn't see this as a funny film.
No,
really.
And I think we will talk more about Cindy Sherman, but it's important to know who she is, I think, to watch this movie. And that's kind of unfair when the whole mission is to like go in blind, right? And like, we're trying to go in and receive it. And I think I can appreciate what it is, why it's a piece of an artist's larger catalog.
We've done this for a number of movies now. We're like, I appreciate its relevance, and I'm grateful to have watched it.
But I felt
a little bit of that vibe again.
It left me empty. I was completely unsatisfied. Like,
it was a disappointment for sure.
It really was. Like, I didn't connect to anybody emotionally.
I wanted to root for somebody.
I wanted to root for like the obvious protagonist.
Yeah, you want to root for this office killer as an anti-hero.
But it was kind of tough because the only time I kind of felt anything for her was when you discovered that like, oh, her father was, incestuous, some lecherous asshole,
freaky
like
piece of shit,
and that she basically murdered him.
Yeah,
and like I love a movie where a child murders somebody.
Oh yeah,
I just want to make that clear, and it gives.
It's like that Almodovar movie.
Exactly. But the same accident cripples her mother, so she's kind of living with a consequence. She's living with a punishment, a penance of some kind,
like the Almodovar movie.
Exactly. Yeah. There you go. It's nuts, and it just doesn't. It's just so bleak. There's no corner or place where you feel warmth, like or kindness or joy.
You know what this made me think of, or it reminded me of, especially us talking about we didn't get to connect with the protagonist, is in the same vein as Clifford. Although there are genuinely funny moments in Clifford, the character is just such a bold shade of whatever was being gone for. Carol Kane is playing like an amazing sort of like Second City broad character here, but at the same time it's also not a funny character.
No,
it's a very like there's moments that feel absurd, and there's like for instance the craziness of how her eyebrows are drawn, or just like like she seems competent enough that like why is this a choice? Like I didn't feel like certain choices about her were justified. Yeah,
I think that has again to do a lot with Cindy Sherman's aesthetic. Although I will say that those eyebrows reminded me a lot of the way in Fellini movies, the way sex workers' eyebrows are drawn, this kind of like Bride of Frankenstein arch, where it's just up, just goes up. There's no down. Like
I appreciate the eyebrows on the art ladies movie,
and also like Lena Wertmuller. Okay, I mean we got to talk about Cindy Sherman. I think to piece this apart. Yes. But I do want to just quickly read some pithy reviews.
Yes.
Before we get into that, which is here's from the New York Times, Stephen Holden. a crude, laugh-free horror spoof. The San Francisco Chronicle called it an awkward goulash. The LA Times said, some of this is insulting, all of it is tedious. And it currently has a 12% rating on Rotten Tomatoes.
Yeah.
So we're not alone.
Yeah.
This isn't a hot take.
No, but by the same token, it's frustrating that this could, I don't want to say it had good bones. I say a movie has good bones when like the pieces, there's really genuinely great pieces and it just feels assembled weird. This was assembled intentionally, but I did not. It has
a plot. It has a story. It has a beginning, a middle, and end. And yet nothing awoke inside me.
I don't understand how she's suddenly able to do her makeup right.
That was funny.
Like, for all my like, I get the aesthetic things and all that, but suddenly she knew to get that because she
went through a
comes off like she has this like personality disorder, but then she's going to take some of the body parts with her. And she just chose this makeover, and we never got to see her have some sort of transformation of like self-discovery. And no one else at the office was honestly so unlikable that I rooted for their deaths, and I rooted for her to just upend everybody that was tying her down.
I mean, I think the only reason I wanted to see people die was just because I was bored. You know, like
at that point you're like, oh, what's she gonna do now?
I knew what the premise was, so I was kind of like, I did feel like, not that her coworkers deserve to die, they don't, but like
you get a sense they're gonna get off.
But I didn't care that they were gonna die either.
We felt like we spent way too much time with them for that being the case.
Way too. No, you're right.
You know what I mean?
Probably, yeah.
And then putting people that are like kind of recognizable, like at least in the instance of like Molly Ringwald.
So it's a really loose narrative. It's not. It's. Our story is essentially, we begin discovering that the only thing that's funny to me, and it's not like a ha, it's just is that the magazine that they all work for is called Constant Consumer. It's like literally the closest thing to a joke in the whole movie.
It's very spot on, and like it's like if she just made bigger swings with that level of camp,
that would have been better.
It would have been better, absolutely. And also it was pacing, man.
Yeah, it just. I mean, we agreed this movie is 80 minutes long, and it just dragged.
Yeah,
it dragged and dragged and dragged, and she's such a weird combination of like Gacy with the way she saves the bodies.
Yeah, see, there's like, what is the intention? I guess it almost seemed like it's like she's going to start a new office life in the basement is what was implied, but then she decided she's going to light it on fire and just drive off to the next job.
And now with her computer skills intact and everything. Because here's my theory right now is that like I think the whole reason this movie got like pulled into the collection and renewed or whatever, streamed again, is purely because the whole premise is about having people work from home.
That's interesting. And that's like, an interesting connection you make, because I just didn't think about it.
It's in the log line. And like one of the pieces I read in doing the research for this kind of was referencing, there's some line about, you know, people miss being inside or talking with people. I don't know. Actually, I love working from home. Yeah. So I'm like, I will kill if you make me go back. Like,
I don't know. I don't know anything of the office versus non-office life.
But this whole thing is all about like, okay, they're downsizing, and the people who were been working at this company doing nothing wrong are getting possibly axed. They're waiting to find out or something,
which suddenly made a lot of those characters sympathetic, because we're watching them potentially get terminated. So right now they're turning into underdogs, and now it's like, well, I kind of don't I don't know who.
It was described as like this movie that like, okay, you have these people that you hate working with, you're downsizing, you want to keep your job. Oh, what a fun, campy, like murder plot that is and could have been. And, you know, I logically followed it when I read the log line. I'm like, oh, okay, yeah, this sounds like, you know, kind of dark fun. Like,
maybe not full blown Psycho Beach Party, but like in that same capacity of like, when I'm thinking of like a campy murder movie, I think in like
I thought for sure we would unquestionably love I don't know. I don't want.
But Carol Kane, she does comedy. She's a comedian.
She's got that fun, you know, that voice. Like,
she's inherently funny to look at.
I can't do it, Carol Kane.
I don't know.
I tried doing it earlier, and I was like, oh, okay, yeah.
In every office, you have there's one thing, the number one thing is get the job done.
Something. She's got almost like a little bit of a Harley Quinn, like older version. It's not quite as New York. I'm doing too much.
And she's like,
it was very read from a script type of voice.
Yeah. I'm thinking of her voice in Jawbreaker when she's like, I do not appreciate a prank at a time like this.
I just think of her in like Kimmy Schmidt too, you know.
Oh yeah, I mean, I forgot she's in that show too.
Well, I mean, that's
so much stuff.
That's like recent, you know.
Yeah, no, it's like I hadn't remembered what she was. But she's an iconic character actress who has a wheelhouse, and you would think, and to a point, she does this competently as
she could do so much more.
But yeah, like it's almost like they didn't let her get to be funny. There was a weird, unfunny.
It's like when Robin Williams.
It was too serious.
When Robin Williams did that 1 hour photo.
I haven't seen that.
Okay,
I haven't seen it. I need to watch it. Do you feel that way about that performance?
Just so there's this thing that happens sometimes where it's like they want to. It felt like a movie where like, it's just your opportunity to take a more dramatic turn and like get away maybe from that, like play a darker character against type a little bit.
Yeah.
But I just feel like she is very muted in this. I mean, the palette is muted literally.
It's unfortunate. It takes away,
it's like a Cindy Sherman.
She should have collabed with John Waters.
You know what's funny is like one of the interviews of her I found was with John Waters.
Really?
So he's definitely a fan of hers.
Yeah.
She's been working for 4 decades and she explores identity, visual and cultural codes of art, celebrity, gender, and like photography. Mm-hmm. And one of the things, the pieces that she's most well known for, the show, the collection she's most well known for, were like these very deliberate, kind of inspired by Hollywood B movies and exploring the different kind of archetypes that women could be. You know, like the jaded seductress, the unhappy housewife, the jilted lover. And these things are really reminiscent of, she would dress herself up in these photos and create the settings and then photograph it to evoke kind of, they had like an Italian neo-realist vibe or a noir vibe, but she was always playing at these different archetypes of people. Mm-hmm. And so in a way, like I'm looking at this movie and thinking about how The Office and the power of costume and dressing for the job you want and all that kind of shit, like it does, there is something appropriate about Cindy Sherman going in and kind of, we have this incredibly mousy copy editor. Like we're exploring that mousy woman archetype.
Yeah. Like there were archetypes. There could have been even more of that though.
I think it could have been bolder for sure. I mean, and just, I was disappointed just like in the actual palette, like the lack of color in this.
Absolutely. It was a very
drab,
lame, and like the honestly the most color you get in the movie is surprising. I felt like Molly Ringwald's hair was, or just her vibe in general. She's like a semi-colorful energy, and granted, character wise, and maybe. I don't want to say performance wise, because I like her. She's a very likable person on screen, but I think at least with that character, there wasn't really much she could do other than be like, I hate her.
Yeah, and she didn't have a lot to do.
Like that, the very it's my birthday and no one remembered. Like it's just every time I see her, it's a very like, God, you guys, she's like killing everybody, probably, right? Like, right? That's not my impression.
Probably no, but I think you're right. I think she didn't have a lot of choices that she could make.
There's a lot of these characters were all just kind of trapped in a box a little bit,
and probably directed to be that way, right? I mean, again, I think. She's bringing a photographic sensibility to film, which you think would work really well, but it's like it is missing this component of. I think the story is just flaccid. I just don't
like. If it was gonna be more of a legit serious type movie, there were moments that were genuinely like eerie. For instance, at the very end when Nora's not going to get out of there, and the camera just slowly pans. We don't even see her get axed at that, but that had an eerie. I liked that choice, that we have to be slowly turned away, because this is like, I don't know, fullest, like you can't even watch this, like it's I even like those title credits. Those were there was a vibe evoked that felt very kind of self-serious in a way.
Yeah, I was very excited by the titles. There were these beautiful projections of the names over the keys of the office computer and the screen. And it was just like, oh, this is very interesting and very cool and very appropriate for this woman who, again, has been a career photographer. Just like a few notes about Cindy Sherman. The youngest of 5, born in 1954 in Glen Ridge, New Jersey. Her father was an engineer and her mother taught reading to children with learning difficulties. That was the most information I could find about that. I don't know quite what that means, but I always think it's interesting to think about the professions that people grew up, in their house. This is a quote from her. "I'm trying to make other people recognize something of themselves rather than me." She studied visual arts at Buffalo State College, and she began as a painter, but found it really limiting and moved into photography. She actually technically failed her first photo class, but persisted, and I just like that.
I love that. I love that about her. And you know what? I also just love too that she like made a bad movie. Yeah, like in a way, it's like I respect that something.
I wish I made a bad movie
out there and open and for all the I didn't care for it, I didn't like it's not good.
But I would love to have been made this.
But I would have loved to have been made this. I would have loved to have been made this. I'm not allowed to cut that.
Okay.
And like respect for throwing spaghetti against the wall first and foremost. Like I totally I have respect for anybody who's just doing it.
Yeah, and her I didn't get good information beyond this, but she's considered part of the Pictures generation, which was I guess a group of artists, a lot of photographers who were responding to the mass media landscape with humor and criticism. And so she's part of this group. Louise Lawler, Robert Longo. I don't know these names. These are things I had to look up. But these are people. Laurie Simmons is another one. These are artists who were all part of that kind of school and that movement. The really key work of Cindy Sherman's, her best known work, is called Untitled Film Stills, which she created from 1977 to 1980. And they're all references to mid-century B movies. They're a series of 69 black and white photographs. She had no titles on any of the images. She really wanted to preserve their ambiguity, which I thought that was interesting.
I do respect that, although by the same token, for us to not to search them and appreciate them, they do have an associated title with that untitled. It's true. Like Untitled 77, for instance.
Well, that's like how Emily Dickinson didn't title her poems, so
but we have to.
They take the first line of them, or whatever. Yeah, like, well, fuck you, Emily.
I'm like, there's a part of me that's just kind of like, are you? You're actually not choosing titles.
The difference between, say, having an exhibition where you're like, no title cards. That's very like, okay, cool. Like fuck you. We're not gonna label it. But you do probably have a system for keeping track of all this shit.
Like if these were up in a museum, they would
number them,
have them
at the very least.
At this point, like the main image, like one of the more iconic images, it would have Untitled number 77 printed above its description.
Absolutely.
Probably.
Yeah, exactly. But these photos and her work in general often serve as a flashpoint for conversations around feminism, postmodernism, representation.
I'm sorry I got so nitpicky about the titles. I don't know why I'm like that.
No, it's okay.
It's the coffee and the weed.
It's all good. She has also done other themes, not just, that B movie series, again, is sort of her best known work, but she went on to do other things like historical portraits, which I think is really cool, centerfolds, society portraits. I read somewhere that she said something like, I just kind of wish every day was Halloween. And I just wanted to dress up as different people every day.
Very fun.
I know, right?
That's very fun.
Also, she doesn't make any attempt to hide her transformation efforts. Like that's what's really interesting is like the wigs are slipping off. Prosthetics are peeling away. There's poorly blended makeup. She is trying to highlight the artificiality of these things. And
the preparedness of or preparation process progress.
And when I think about the way that Doreen is styled in this movie, that feels very reminiscent, like of this. You asked about the eyebrows,
edges,
and even the blush, right?
It's for all my criticism, it's like, I get that. Like,
but you don't know this, like going in, receiving this blankly. You don't have the benefit of all that. Like, I mean, I knew the name Cindy Sherman. Like, there was the first time I heard it there was a gal, and I was in art school for one semester, and she loved Cindy Sherman, and I had no idea who she was. And she kind of showed me some of her photos, and then she was doing stuff really similar. And and then I think I stumbled on it later again and just realized how fucking cool it really was. Like, and she's portrayed glamorous women and done that kind of thing. But she's really more interested in the grotesque. And like that grotesqueness is really alive in this movie and like reminds me of like Lena Wertmuller, who's this Italian filmmaker who like she would do the makeup for the women. Well, not just the women, but whoever needed makeup she would do it herself just because she wanted it to be kind of awful.
Yeah.
You know, or wanted it to be particularly grotesque. And she's really interested in grotesque people and grotesque faces. And Cindy Sherman's similarly kind of obsessed. And there's something kind of cool about that. Like, I think about Amy Sedaris, and like, she's more than once talked about the experience of like going and doing a photo shoot and like, how do you want to look? And like, make me look like I got the shit beat out of me. Like, so she can walk around the rest of the day like with looking like she got just bruised and an arm. It's like, and it's like she got really loved that fucking with people. Like, and it just, I don't know, there's something about it doesn't have to just be in comedy, but like I think women are so discouraged from like embracing grotesqueness in any way. Either
being crude.
Yeah, or like even as an observer or like an artist. I mean, it's the idea that she's trying to demonstrate there's like all these different types of violence that can happen to a body. And like she did a series that were like disaster related, illness related. She was also coming to be a really like influential artist in the time of the AIDS crisis in the 80s. And, you know, to reject this idea of making yourself beautiful, to want to explore the other direction. There's something really interesting about all of this. I just wish like it's not evident.
It's all the more disappointing then when the movie doesn't like quite come together.
It's a shame. Like I think what bothers me is that I think if you knew nothing about Cindy Sherman, I don't know that this movie would make you more curious.
That's the unfortunate reality, is that no, I was not left. You know what this movie did make me want to do though? It made me want to rewatch Clock Watchers and May. Yeah. Because I felt like this movie, if you wanted to watch a movie that had been like this and then you were subsequently disappointed by what you watched, I would say watch Clock Watchers and then watch May. And I feel like those like very closely captured like tonally what I was maybe kind of craving. Maybe one or the other. I mean, it's like one direction or the other. I don't think fused together would be good. And I think, you know, again, this is where
fuse them.
Fuse them. I don't know. There's like
two heads.
There's some there's like a sentimentality to like Clock Watchers in a way, but like whereas with May, it's like a very like
I haven't seen either of those movies.
I wish I hadn't seen either of those movies so I could rewatch them. They're both
just lie to me.
I think they're both just legitimately good. I know I should have just lied.
No,
but I already talked about them like I knew them because I do.
Well, you know, this movie made me think of two. I was thinking about how now that we know Cindy Sherman's really into referencing other things.
Yes,
I looked at this movie and I'm like, okay, I'm seeing a bit of 9 to 5. I'm seeing a little bit of Working Girl. Like I'm seeing a lot of different office dramas, movies, archetypes again,
and like, just trope like moments. You know, the driving on the freeway and like a free woman with the red car, wind blowing her hair.
That felt so tacked on.
It was a very contrived ending that did not make sense.
The only thing I liked was the detail about like must have computer skills. Yeah, you know, that was like, okay, that paid off. Yeah, you know, that paid off. I kind of liked that she left better and on a better path, but I also didn't really connect deeply with her. Yeah. And there was something incredibly disturbing and grotesque about like the fact that she kept those bodies in the house.
It didn't come together and make sense. Like with May, I might spoil these other movies talking about them. Like with May, it's like she has these acquaintances, work persons, whatever. I admittedly haven't seen the movie in a while, so I'm probably butchering this, but like she wants like she's essentially creating like a partner at home for herself, like a lover at home, and like starts killing people for body part, like various appendages and shit like that. So it's grotesque in a certain visceral way, not unlike this movie, because it does have this movie definitely had some grotesque moments. And then simultaneously there was a drive there was a collective understanding you have as a view between viewer and maker in that film, where it's like we understand that May has an objective of, you know, she's filling a void for companionship, essentially.
We understand.
And she's doing it in like the crudest, like grossest way possible.
But there's a logic.
There's a logic to it. And we see her, we see much more of just scenes of her one-on-one with a series of characters that treat her to varying degrees of
Yeah, I mean,
They just treat her like whatever. No, sorry, just my brain farted.
It's fine. I'm looking at my own notes.
I feel like Office Killer, if they really wanted to go for like a great comedic angle, it should have just been the stapler guy from Office Space. But yeah, just Milton from the Office Place. And it's like he burns the building down. She
I'm gonna burn the building
down.
Okay, but, I'm gonna
just. But I mean, I like that also. It isn't him being a killer. It's more satisfying to see his journey. That way.
We can't start talking about like a Mike Judge movie, you know, like or Stephen Root performance, because it'd be like eating a cupcake and then trying to go back to like regular fruit, you know?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
You're like, I know fruit's good, but damn it, I just ate a cupcake.
I know. Sorry, but now I know.
No, it's fine. Just a few things. Okay, I did like one thing. Jumbo the cat.
Oh, Jumbo's great.
Jumbo's cute.
Jumbo's very cute. And I liked that the body humor of the hand. Piss, 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 piss.
I like that
but
too.
it also was. I was also annoyed by that scene because I was like, are you this movie or are you that movie?
I know. I'm with you there.
We're seeing a lot of this. Right. This Nora death got really dragged out and
yeah, because it gets
sad.
Really sad. In the basement. Sad in the basement.
Sad and serious in a fucking weird way.
And like, then her mother dies.
Yeah.
And the only part, I mean, this is the part that I actually was like, whoa, okay, I think I felt something, was she screams at her mother's body in this way that I'm like, oh, this is a serial killer. Like, this is somebody who cannot, they're totally damaged, and like we're seeing like the raw,
like the Norman Bates type character.
Bingo.
100%.
Yeah, that's because she was wounded.
That's great acting.
It really was.
Like she did the assignment. I don't think she didn't do the assignment.
No, everyone did the assignment.
You know.
I liked that. You know, I mean, or it affected me. This whole like preserving the bodies in the basement was not. It felt like it was trying to be light, but it wasn't.
Like so they're downsizing, but she's going on this murder spree.
It kind of seems like she would have maybe done that anyway.
Like, it didn't have to be about downsizing.
I mean,
she
now
was
upset. Like, she has that moment where the copier explodes on her, and she has like kind of a snap. She kind of reaches her breaking point or something, and it's like, but then it's, I don't know. Again, it's like I guess like with her. The fact
but
that
Nora rushes over and like immediately takes, like, it makes it all the more disheartening. And that
it's so funny. One of those characters, I thought it was like Katherine Heigl because it looked so much like her.
Yeah,
but it wasn't.
You're talking about was it her? Yeah, that
Nora, yeah.
She does have that. She did have. I
kept like thinking, I was like, is that Katherine Heigl in a way?
Yeah.
I'm like, no, she would have been like 14.
But the thing is like Nora was depicted as this ultimately sympathetic character.
Yeah,
which, you know, between her and her boyfriend, an office boyfriend, it just makes it takes a very unfortunate type of turn in the film, because you have simultaneously been rooting for her. Like you said, at least I myself, I mean, like you said, I wasn't really rooting for anybody. I also, at a certain point, I'm like, oh, let's just get this bitch in jail already. All right, you done? We gotta discover this, and we gotta get her to tap out.
Yeah, I was ready for it all to move on. I mean, the only lesson I can really take from this is that if you're really good at your job, no one can touch you.
Yeah,
like because she literally gets away with killing people, and
which is also absurd
to me. And no one will like. Yeah,
that's totally absurd. So she goes out of her way
to bring them home,
to bring them all to her place, and then like. The mom never says anything, even though the house probably smells of death.
There was that line, the EMTs who were like,
"Oh yeah, that was this place smells like death."
And
yeah,
he's like, probably got another one in there, like
probably another,
like a little EMT humor, you know? It's just like, no, she really does.
I want to see a whole movie of this EMT guy just reacting to the crazy.
That's what I want.
Crazy scenes. Just,
God, there's so many. I remember.
I like that EMT guy.
It's fun. A fun podcast, honestly, would be called Left Turns, and you would somewhere in the first 20 minutes or whatever of a movie, you decide to follow someone else.
Yeah.
Because you know how bad the movie's going to be.
I think it'd be really funny.
Like Twister, Bill Paxton's wife is a doctor, but not just a doctor. She's like a fertility specialist therapist.
She seemed like a very interesting character.
She makes dreams come true.
Yeah.
And like he's like, oh, she's some doctor. and like
that was a great Bill Paxton. I just
want Helen Hunt back. Like,
that was great.
It's like, this woman is she has more education than anybody else.
Yeah.
And she's agreed to go on your little redneck tour of let's go chase twisters. Like,
she's like going out of her way to try to like.
No. And then this blonde, like queen bee woman who's surrounded by nerds. Of course.
And she's like going out of, I didn't like Helen Hunt's character in that too. Cause they she was very just deliberately like acting like an asshole.
Yeah.
Like,
but she's like,
I was sympathizing with the city lady.
No.
Yeah. They take her to this place with the steak and the stuff, and she like can't even eat it. I think she's like a vegetarian or something, isn't she?
They make her this, like, the movie acts so harshly. They make so many moves against her, and I'm just like, I'm watching it like, I fuck the twisters. I want to know about this woman. So
that would be a stupid, funny niche character to explore,
like the woman from Twister. Oh my god, please, because she's played by like a character actress that I swear you've seen in like a dozen things, and she's great. Like, she's like sort of got a little bit of a Terry Hatcher quality, but I think it would be like maybe more like a kind of sketch show almost. Like, I
love the idea of like if there were different characters like that, like there's her. I just thought of like the thinking about like the stepmom from The Parent Trap.
Yeah,
like,
these like sidelined women start paying attention. I don't have anything else to say about this. I don't.
Was there like a specific like scene that I don't know
that I liked?
Like
I watched this yesterday.
Death?
I watched this yesterday, and I can barely remember it. Like, I just, you know,
it was hard to stay invested early on. I was just like already getting bored. I was like 15 minutes in, and
it's not like it wasted time at the beginning. I mean, it started with like everyone's being laid off. Today's the day. Like, but even that was confusing to me, because I'm like, they were laid off, but they were working from home, fired or not, or is it?
They were talking about how they're
going to be fired.
Yeah, like they're going to get turned into. Basically just that they were all getting demoted to part-time. It wasn't even that they were getting fired. It was just that their
everything was being cut.
Hours and benefits were going to get reduced. So, I mean, I don't know. I just didn't.
Even that was just kind of hazy. And again, like, none of this would matter if this was something that played at an art gallery.
Right.
You know, because then you'd just be like, oh, this is a Cindy Sherman's only film.
Yeah.
But it kind of shouldn't be out there playing with
just shouldn't be out there. It should be just hide.
This is a movie that's a soft, pale child you want to keep inside, safe from other things.
Exactly.
It shouldn't be out there.
Oh, we don't feed him rich foods.
No. He's only allowed to have plant-based milks. Yes. You know, like,
yes.
This is a kid who can't play with the other kids.
Yes.
Because it's not exactly
he's a little weaker. A little weaker than the other children.
Yeah, he's got the croup.
No, I think again, just the fact that it was like right away, we're seeing these other office workers who are like disgruntled and kind of getting fucked over. It's like what you want to see is like solidarity, which is why something like Clock Watchers, it's like, oh, those girls pal out. Like you see people kind of forming bonds in this like kind of negative, frustrating, monotonous work environment. Or do you watch instead something like Office Space, where they collectively are like you have a handful of people that are starting to be like, fuck the system in some way, and you start rooting for them as underdogs? Or is it like you treat, like, if you want just the one office worker to be alienated, it's got to be like full on Joker, where it's like the world against them, you know?
I know.
Like,
I agree. I think there was like a whole mixture of things here, and you know, I'm with you in that, like, I couldn't quite 100% get behind her. Like, you know, there wasn't like enough. And it's so funny how Office Space...
It's like, well, everybody's pissed off, lady. You're not the only person getting fucked over. Like,
yeah, it's so funny you bring up Office Space, because I mean, I really feel like that movie... It's kind of... I mean, it's perfect.
Yeah,
you know? I mean, for lack of a better word, but it feels like it distilled that it's... I don't want to say it's the final word on office culture. It's not, but...
It's close.
I haven't seen anything top it. You know, I think is how I feel. That's just my opinion.
It's not just like trope, like it's still quotable, even like, you know, it's like you think about people who get sick of like Borat, or people who get sick of Austin Powers, or whatever. But like, this is something, you know, so you could say a quote from it and I'll still be delighted.
told those fudge packers I like Michael Bolton.
Exactly.
No,
just
I think
great.
what I like is that it's like
Great.
the three main characters are all the straight men. Like they make all the absurd people the people around them.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean? Like it's kind of and I mean, that movie is like, when I think about it, it's so absurd, but it doesn't bother me that it's absurd. Like it earns it. And it's only kind of absurd. Like,
with Office Space?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Like its absurdity is still a grounded
It's
absurdity.
it's got a consistent tone about it, you know?
Yeah. Like, I mean, just the corporate accounts and payable speaking, just a moment. Like that soundscape, that feeling of being trapped with people. I thought that's what this movie was going to be.
Like
I thought this was going to be about those people that you can't stand and that you would kill. You know, I thought this was going to vindicate all the quiet, mousy, good workers out there.
No, this put a bad name. This gave the quiet, weird person at work a bad name.
And then she like sort of butterfly blossoms into something she doesn't even stay that way.
We didn't get like, that was not justified. That it was a transformation. Like the only thing. Like, not unless you were making it about how all of these people were holding her back from her full potential in some way.
But they weren't. She was a nepotism hired, been at the company for 14 years. Like,
yeah, so she literally was the problem.
Yeah. And so, like, and I also...
Get out of here, lady.
Just thinking about it now, that ending where she suddenly has a different look, I think that's like how Cindy Sherman kind of gets out of the end of a movie, right? It's just change clothes. Like, new piece, you know, like, and that's not to dismiss it. I just think like that seems like a solution to her. Just change her clothes, give her a new wig, give her a new look. Okay, now it's done. It's an ending. You know, like it's a choice. I just, but again, this movie just didn't satisfy me.
She takes all those little body parts in her little bag, like souvenirs for some reason. Why?
And
why did she need like on one hand I was like, oh,
there was no establishment. It was like, was it because you're lonely? Is that it?
Yeah.
Is it like a Dahmer thing? It
didn't quite,
because I didn't think of her as being so lonely I mean, she seemed to really loathe the people she worked with. Yeah. It's like, okay, you can.
So why is she hanging out with them? Or she was like, she's trying to fix them. Like she's trying to shake some nails off of the boss. Like I can't type with those or whatever. It's like
weird.
What?
Because he was such an asshole to her. It's like, why would you do anything?
It was very anticlimactic. That the very first death was not even...
It was an accident.
It was just an accident-based thing, and she just took him home anyway. And I'm like, oh, is this going to be one of those things where she keeps accidentally like bumping into people who die or whatever?
I wasn't sure. It's so funny how often we need, like, if there's going to be multiple murders, it's so... That's like I feel like that's a very normal instinct to make the first one an accident.
Sure.
So that, like... it's not premeditated, but you got the taste for it and you're not suffering consequences.
But she didn't even actually, he put a fucking wrench in the
yeah, but he like spooked her and she hit the thing, and no, it wasn't her fault at all.
Sure.
But she didn't like the guy. I mean, there was that moment where she's about ready to call 911. Well, she has called 911, but then she just hangs up because you know, clearly she's like, oh, I don't like you. She even says like, you're not a very nice man.
Yeah.
And that,
you're not a very nice man.
Yeah.
Like,
I gotta work on my accents.
Yeah, I can't. I gotta work on my
Carol Kane.
Carol Kane.
I can hear her in my head like clear as day, but I just can't make my mouth do that.
Yeah.
She had that one scene in Seinfeld.
Yeah.
You know, where she got hit in the head with pocket organizer or whatever, like the lanes. I mean, whatever. The point is, it gets thrown out of a limousine and it hits this woman in the head, and the first name that comes up is Jerry Seinfeld, and so she contacts him, and she's like, there I am walking down Fifth Avenue. Yeah. This thing just flies out of the air and hits me in the head. Underutilized in this movie.
Yeah, like her full comedic potential was just not really tapped into.
No, not at all.
Yeah. Yeah, and the finding the mom dead seems like a very serious acting moment.
That was such a serious moment. Like, overwhelming. Like, I'm like, this is seriously Norman Bates stuff. Yeah. Like that was, I'm like, is she gonna keep mom?
She disposes of her mom.
Alice Drummond is the woman who plays her mother. She's pretty great. She's often playing dotty old women, which tells me she's probably like not Dottie.
Yeah.
That she's probably actually very in control to be able to do that. But I'm trying to think, she's one of those very familiar like if you look up Alice Drummond, you'll be like, oh, okay, her. Like she may have been.
Oh, she's the librarian in Ghostbusters. Sorry. Yeah,
that's great.
That's a big one.
That's a big one.
She's in a bunch of stuff. She's in Ace Ventura as Mrs. Finkel.
That's right.
She's in IQ as dinner guest. I don't know. I don't know if I've seen that.
Oh, I
or
loved that.
Oh, and I think Office Killer did come out after Clock Watchers, which makes me wonder if the movie had been inspired by Clock Watchers.
Maybe
in some way.
I mean, I think it very much is inspired.
Oh wait, no, sorry, they came out the same year. Fuck, I fucked up.
I do think though, regardless of whether it was an influence or not, I think every movie about office life is kind of being referenced.
And when did Office? All these Office movies came out around the same time. I think
we had a lot of millennial anxiety.
Yeah,
we were heading toward
Office Space 99.
Yeah.
Actually, the other movie was 98, Clock Watchers, and this was 97.
And that's something too that similar to that Almodovar film we watched earlier. There was a lot of this movie definitely made me kind of like weird nostalgic for certain analog things. Like I don't know, The Office was still very much like typed and slips and. I don't know.
Almost a bygone era of mundane work.
Yeah, like I wrote something down specifically about that. Like, okay, like there's a lot of focus in this on objects, hands manipulating objects, tools, knobs. They had light tables. They were just like it was a lot of like it's very much about the tension of moving into this computing, right? They're moving out of this and going into computers.
There's so much more that could have been explored there too.
Oh, so much more.
Shame.
I know.
And also, speaking of shame, look at what a great poster that is. Like that's a fun. Like I pulled it up on Wikipedia. I'm looking at it. I mean, I would have put Carol Kane in the center and not Molly Ringwald in the center. So
I know
she's got
it's
a bigger.
Just that like she's the big name.
I get that to a point, but then it's also like, well, you're going to be disappointed if you came to see this movie for her because she doesn't have a whole hell of a lot to do or say, except she had a really funny, like extremely expositional line at the bar when she's like, oh, I hate that. She's a blah, blah, blah freak. And and her not so subtle crush. Like,
Yeah, and there were some, everybody's doing everybody. And I don't know. It was messy.
Yeah, it was like everybody doing each other. It's like if they played up kind of the camp of how it seems like everybody's just having this fucking frat party and she's in the corner.
Everything felt dingy and like mildly sleazy and just sort of like, I don't know. I came away feeling.
I think she's going to go to another office and work too.
I guess.
She wants to keep being in that environment.
I don't know. Presumably to repeat the cycle. I don't know. But I don't. Dear listener, you can watch this, but I don't. We did it for you.
This pod is going to be longer than the movie was.
Oh my God. When I went to see Eyes Wide Shut last night, there was some kind of a Amber Alert or something. And it just like went around the theater, all the people who hadn't turned their phones
on. Oh my God.
It was kind of genius.
That's really funny, actually, especially in that movie. And to hear that.
It was like, and you just saw all these like heads shifting.
Oh my God.
It was kind of great. I'm really glad I'm not super reverential of this movie,
Thank you for listening to A Breath of Fresh Movie. You can follow us on Twitter or Instagram at Fresh Movie Pod. You can email us, we actually prefer that, at abreathoffreshmovie@gmail.com.